Let's discuss the graphic novel Transmetropolitan Book 1. Hi, welcome to Garage Geek. Today we're going to discuss this graphic novel, Transmetropolitan Book 1. And this covers the first 12 issues of the series. This is published in 5 graphic novels, the entire series, so this is the first part, so the first fifth of the series. This graphic novel was written by Warren Ellis. The artwork is mostly by Derek Robinson, but there are a whole bunch of artists. But the art remains consistent throughout the series, at least in these first 12 issues. Well, this comic series is labeled Cyberpunk Transhumanistic Comic. And so I wanted to understand exactly what that meant. So cyberpunk has futuristic technological and scientific achievements juxtaposed with societal collapse, dystopia, or decay. And transhumanist is a movement where thinkers study the benefits and dangers of emerging technologies. So, for example, many believe that transhumanism can lead to the post-human, where because of scientific and technological advances, we can evolve into the next stage of humanity. So this comic book series ran from 1997 to 2002 in the DC Vertigo label. This comic was written by Warren Ellis, and I actually want to circle back to that near the end. I'm going to talk about the author after we go through the graphic novel. This novel focuses on the main character, which is Spider Jerusalem, who is a gonzo journalist. So a gonzo journalist is a writer, a journalist, who has no claims of objectivity, often becoming part of the story. This book tackles many societal issues. Even within the first 12 issues, it dealt with homelessness, cults, cult leaders, drugs, alcohol, isolationism, especially technology that's supposed to bring us together but actually isolates us. Police brutality, private security forces, corporate greed and corruption, social media, religion, and it by no means shies away from foul language, sexual concepts, and violence. I'm going to talk about my favorite issue. And my favorite issue was where Spider Jerusalem covers what it's like for people who have paid to be cryogenically frozen, and the company maintains them until the date when they wake up or their money has run out. And how those people are treated and how they are brought back into society or not. And it's like an expose on that whole process. And to me, this was my favorite issue. Number one, because it was a really sad issue. And number two, that was the issue that showed the character's humanity the most to me. However, I ultimately had quite a few problems with the main character. I can take violence. Violence in comics for a reason serves a purpose. I don't shy away from violence, and in fact, violence can be beautiful. I mean, look at any John Woo movie, and people talk about the ballet of violence and what have you. And so, violence in art is disturbing, but it can actually be beautiful in a weird way. And certainly the art in this book is very beautiful. And so I'm going to show a couple of violent images, and I'm going to show also a panel of 6, actually 7, where Spider is defending himself against a force that comes in, but he does it in a very violent manner. You can say that the security force had it coming, right? Because Spider was just defending himself, and that's fine. But there are other images throughout the book where Spider seems to have a mental imbalance. And so he will just go off on people that he feels is not worthy, or who have radically different thoughts than he does, especially when it comes to religion. So that takes us back to Spider Jerusalem, the character. So at the beginning of the graphic novel, he is isolated, and he does not want to become part of society again. So at the beginning, he's very much like a character out in the woods with nature, but he's pulled back in. But he has a lot of issues. He is definitely the anti-hero. We are supposed to understand and like this character, no matter what he does. Because we have to understand that he is a character who is flawed. He has mental issues, but there are justified reasons why he has these issues. And so we just have to go on this journey with him, and we have to see where it's going to take us. And you actually do start to feel for the character and understand him and everything that's going on around him and why he acts the way he does. However, there are a few certain things about these first 12 books that disturb me. And one, I have to remember myself that he is a flawed character and that he has mental issues. So number one, he's very abusive to the women in his life. Especially, he's always assigned assistants, and bad things normally happen to those assistants. On the other hand, he does make connection with these women. But there is a very disturbing scene that happens near the end of the first 12 issues where a woman is trying to get revenge on him for something that he did. And when he's asked about it, he very flippantly doesn't even remember what he had done to the woman. Now that was in there for a point, right? We're getting into his psyche and how he treats people, but the way he treats women is very disturbing. And even though I've gained some sympathy for him, it's things like this that pull me away from him. Now there's also another issue that's at the very end of the book that it was a Christmas issue that was very disturbing for me, right? And it pulled all sympathy away from this character. And so throughout the book, there is mention of animal abuse. And again, if he's going after people who are abusive and he's writing about this, I would be totally fine with that. And if he says, oh, let's go kick a dog, and they don't show anything, and I could write it off as, oh, maybe it's just an expression, maybe it's a joke. But at the very end of this book, he's complaining in this Christmas issue about how Christmas bells are horrible to him. He just hates Christmas. The whole point of this last issue is that he hates Christmas, and he's the anti-hero, and he's going to hate anything positive in society. He gathers up all these puppies, and he's very proud of the fact that he's going to eat puppies as mufflers on the Christmas bells. So basically, they're going to be banged to death. And he's taking part in this animal abuse. And I mean, I know this is supposed to be flippant, right? Oh, he hates Christmas, okay. But I can't advocate animal abuse at all. So, animal abuse, child abuse. Now, as I've been showing these issues, I've also been showing violent images, and there's actually a couple of images in the book that I wouldn't show, especially when it dealt with children, right? And I know there was one very graphic, a couple graphic images of children who were put through testing, and like it was about corporate greed and what, and they were doing tests on these children. Okay, I get that, right? I wasn't against that because, of course, he's going after corporate greed. But it was very graphic, and I didn't want to put those pictures in this review. But in this Christmas issue, again, there's a couple of things, like he tries to traumatize children. So you're gonna see an image where the children wake up on Christmas morn and they see their snowman that have been urinated on. They're put in sexual positions. They're shown as being mutated, and one is like eviscerated with like guts coming out and then urinated on. And the kids are staring at it with, wide eye. And so I get it. It's a comic. It's fantasy. That really didn't happen to children. But I don't see how being an anti-hero and hating Christmas that's good. And then, in one of the final scenes of that issue, a father is singing a Christmas... It's not really a Christmas carol. It's more like a religious song. And he is with his son, and they're singing as people are walking by. And he just decides to knee the father, right? So you'll see in the picture, and the father falls down. And then he gives the son that's with the father some money and walks away. And this is supposedly okay. I get it. Maybe I'm on a rant, right? This comic is supposed to be about an anti-hero who will do whatever it takes, for things that he doesn't like. So if he's fighting against society and the ills of society, and he doesn't like some of the more, how would I say, happier aspects of society, like the idea behind Christmas and religion, I get all this, right? But some excess of violence and abuse, that whatever sympathy I've built up for this character over the course of these issues, whatever psyche understanding that I get for him, yes, he has abuse in his life, and he is going to be put up with because he's famous and he can sell papers. So the newspaper is going to put up with anything that he does, right? Because they're going to cover up any violence, any abuse. They're going to cover it all up because he's their star and he gives them all their money. I get all that, right? But when someone is abusive toward children and toward animals, I lose all sympathy for the character. So that brought me back to the author. Okay, so I know that Spider Jerusalem is a character. It's not the author. I know that. So I was wondering myself, so why is he including this element of animal abuse and child abuse? So I looked it up. I basically did a Google search. Warren Ellis, animal abuse. And some interesting articles came up. So I guess he was actually advocating for animals. He's donated a lot, this kind of thing. But then some other sexual things came up that were very disturbing, and at that point I just stopped. Right? He started merging into the character, and I thought, okay, I'm not going to research him anymore. So I mean, this guy Warren Ellis is a giant in the comic industry, especially for a lot of independent comics. And so I am definitely going to finish this series. Right? This is only book 1. I want to see where this character goes and if he's redeemed. I mean, it is hard to redeem yourself for basically torturing and killing a bag full of puppies. For me, he would have to do a lot to be redeemed. Now, I'm sorry, I went off on a rant. I guess this brought out some really interesting issues. And for a comic to do that, then that means it's a good comic, right? This can make you talk. This can make you think and discuss. So, do I recommend this comic? It's really difficult for me to say that. I think that the violence would be off-putting for a lot of people. But if you're not turned off by violence and you know that there's abuse, then this might be okay for you. Right? I think that this comic is going to take us on a journey with this very flawed character, and I personally want to see where it goes from here. So I'm going to highly recommend the comic. One, it's got great art, right? The art is consistent. The storylines, there are arcs, right? There's about 3 or 4 arcs, and then there are single issue stories throughout. But for the most part, it's very consistent. It's moving forward. If you're squeamish, you don't want to read this. No, you don't want to. Yeah, I would just generally be interested to know what you think of this. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more of my content.